Rejoice this day, brothers and sisters of the light, for our retribution friends have received a mighty blessing. Oh my God. Oh. Fuck them. I see you shining kings. Burn them down if you ask me. Burn down every single one of those filthy fucking heathens till there's only pallies left. Amen. For those of you who don't really give a damn about the details and you just want to get a talent spec and get to PvP, and let me give you this resource, because whether you're a new player or you're returning from a long break, you got a new class to 70, Blizzard just completely fucked your talent tree, whatever the case is, this is a great resource to find out what the top players in the game are doing talent-wise. So let's say you want to run Holy Pally solo shuffle. You fucking don't right now, but let's just say you're crazy and you do. Here we go. And it's going to pull them up, and you can click on the character and it'll show you their gear, their enchants, and you can come view their talents right here. And say you're looking for a BG build to farm honor right here. Go to RBGs, filter, Paladin, Holy, filter. There you go. Now you've got the top Paladin specs in the game for BGs right there. And again, shows you their gear, all that good stuff. Wonderful, wonderful resource for those of you who are just looking to get after it. And I don't want to waste your time, so I'm going to break down the talent tree in detail for those of you who are looking to theory craft or really understand the interactions. But if you just want a set of talents to get in there and go, here you go, champ. This is your website. The talent trees have changed just enough that I want to cover them again just to show you how some of the talents have changed. They've added some new ones. They've moved some around so they're easier to get to and when you might want to grab them. I'm just going to run through them, okay? And I guess the easiest way to do it is just to do it. So let's just start up here on the Paladin side, and we'll just go as quickly as possible, but I do want to be thorough. So here's your lay on hands. Remember, in PvP, solo shuffle, use your lay on hands early. Let this be one of the first defensive you used. That's a born good tip, right? Because dampening fucks this. It makes it kind of suck, actually. And that's why we don't take a lot of talents that reduce or buff lay on a hands, because at the end of a match, this defensive gets worse and worse as a match goes on. So use it early so that you have those other defensives that mitigate damage better or completely, whereas this isn't going to be worth shit in dampening. Now, in random battlegrounds, one of my favorite abilities. Love it when one of my healer friends is down, and here I come, boom, healing you. Now you throw a frisbee on them right here. Here's our freedom, and then they're good. Love Blessing of Freedom. Iconic ability. Just watch it. They get sniped a lot, so be careful. Here's your Hammer of Wrath, execute. Fun to have a damaging ability on a healer, especially like a little topper offer. Okay, over here, Improved Cleanse. Always take Improved Cleanse in PvP. It's huge, and it's doubly huge when you take Cleanse the Weak, because it allows you to take a ton of shit off a ton of people very quickly. Amazingly fun ability. Very powerful, very underrated by people that aren't aware of how powerful this is. It is huge, but do beware, because there are counter to spell mechanics that can make it fun too. So pop your Divine Shield. Maybe sometimes you have to pump the big boy here to get it done, but all in the name of the light. I don't see any of the high levels grabbing this, but it's quick to get to, I guess, if you want it. Auras of Swift Vengeance. This one's interesting because Retribution Aura now with Aura Mastery increases healing, I think, by 10 or 15%. So it's actually a little better now. However, you'll never need this. I always tell people to take this in Battlegrounds for Crusader Aura, but you will never need this now. There are plenty of Rets. There's plenty of Rets every Battleground, and most of them never take off Crusader Aura. Over here, Turn Evil got moved up a level, which is nice. Easier to get to against those Warlocks. Great to fear their demons, fear their pets to prevent CC. I'm usually not good enough to pull this off, so I'm not sitting here trying to tell you to do it like it's something that I do on the regular, but it's something good to try to do. Over here, going 2 in Fist of Justice always. Holy Power spent reduces the cooldown of your Hammer of Justice, your big stun. Use it to set up CC to finish a game. Use it to peel. Whatever you need, the more the merrier. Right here, Divine Steed. We kept Pony. Just absolutely love this thing. Look, we got matching glowing lights and shit with these shoulders. Are you kidding me? God, I love that. But it's off the global cooldown now, so it's really nice. Greater Judgment. Just a little Judgment buff. You're going to take this because you're on your way to this every time. Rebuke. Love it when you get to stuff those Cyclones. Just love this. Sometimes, you know, if you go all in, you can stop a Chaos Bolt. There's some really great uses for this. I think all of the good Paladins pretty much played Blinding Light. I love Repentance. I try to play it, and then I regret it. And then I change back to Blinding Light. And then I remember that it doesn't matter what I pick. These aren't my problems. I'm just bad. I think if you're learning, I would definitely go with Blinding Light. But Repentance is here, and it has its play. And I love this in Battlegrounds. Because it's got, I mean, that 30-yard range is pretty nice. Over here, most everyone grabs Divine Steed. 2 ponies, better than 1. I actually really like Seasoned Warhorse because there are so many micro snares. There's tar traps everywhere, frost mages everywhere, blizzards everywhere. So the extra 2 seconds actually makes it feel a little better. Not much armor, but the 4% crit's nice, especially since, you know, those Infusion of Light procs are based off those Holy Shot crits. Here's Wings. Remember, Wings is 5 Holy Power now. There's a lot of debate on this change. I think it just takes some getting used to, but I don't know. Some people love it. Some people hate it. It is what it is. Judgment damage. Now, remember, if you're going with a caster build, you'll probably pass on a lot of these judgment damage because you're not going to be slinging judgments out as much. But if you're going with a melee Avenging Crusader melee wings build, you'll be picking up these all the way down here to Zealots, but we'll get there. Over here, these 2 right here are Consecrate abilities. I really love these abilities. I love that when Consecrate heals. The problem is, of course, in PvP, getting people to stay inside of them because, I mean, it looks like a pretty big area, but this isn't very much in PvP with the amount of charges and stuff going on. So leaps and jumps and it's just really hard to get your value out of them, but I love them. I will tell you, I love to run these in AV. And if you watch my AV video, you know that. I like to couple it with this Lights Hammer, and you can just fill a tower with so much AoE healing. It's really fun. If you're into AV and you're like, crap, I don't really want to do this, here's some talents you can swap into. Get up into one of those Horde towers and plunk down a Consecrate and this Lights Hammer when they come pouring in and just Light of Dawn and everything. It's pretty fun. But for the most part, no one takes these. Blessing of Sac, always, forever, forever. And then we're going to take this Sacrifice of the Just, always. This brings it down to a minute cooldown. Love Sac. Just an amazing ability. Really a lot of potential for outplay for good players. The damage keeps you out of a lot of CC. That pretty much anything that's not a physical stun. Just a great ability. Very fun. I like that it has a trade-off. It's just iconic. Love Sac. If you can't tell, love it. Little tankiness never hurt. We'll take both of those. Blessing of Protection. You'll always take this. Crazy good into physical damage. Garbage against magic. I was kind of hoping that they were going to give us the PvP talent to turn this into Blessing of Spell Warding, where it stops all magical damage. That would have been awesome, but maybe a little OP. I don't know. Considering what everybody else is getting, I feel like it wouldn't be too bad. But either way, they didn't, so we're here now. Always taking Blessing of Protection. On this one right here, if you're going to take this, you're going to get more bang for your buck on this one. Probably in RBGs. I don't see a lot of people taking this. Some people do, but I don't see a lot of the high levels taking it as of right now. We'll see if that changes. So you'll never take this. You're probably going to get a lot more bang for your buck out of this in Battlegrounds, maybe in some healing and melee cleave. A lot of people pass on this on melee wings, but I see on RBG healers, if you look at some of the top specs, a lot more of them grab it in that mode. So something to consider. Next up, Unbreakable Spirit. 30% reduction on our 3 big defensives. Absolutely. Crusader's Reprieve. This is such a great ability. Adds 3 yards to your auto attacks, your rebuke, and your Crusader Strike. It also adds a 2% of your maximum health heal to Crusader Strike. So very nice utility. The extra range on rebuke is really nice for interrupting the cyclones. Really enjoy it. Love this ability for melee wings. I'm not going to grab this talent. And you don't see a lot of people grab it, except for sometimes in the ranged caster build and random battlegrounds. I've found a few high-level ranged caster paladins running this. I mean, basically, when you're in Consecrate, your Word of Glories are buffed by 20%, which, it's no big deal to throw down a Consecrate if you get set up in a good position, just a flat 20% healing buff on your Word of Glory on top of some other modifiers. Some people seem to like it, so maybe try that out. But for melee wings, we're not going to run that because we're not going to be dropping Consecrates all the time. We're just not going to have the global cooldowns is really what it comes down to, I think, is the problem. Plus, there's just better places. As cool as that kind of is, there's just better places for the talent points to go. But something to consider on one of those ranged builds, maybe in a random battleground or a 40-man, where you can drop one of those down. Maybe, or if you're already dropping the Consecrates anyway, maybe just go ahead and grab that too. I am so glad they dropped this down here and made it easy to get. I really like this. It's kind of corny, but what it is when you throw your Judgment, I'll show you. You throw your Judgment out, it just gives it a little 5-stack proc here where if whoever hits it gets a little healing. And I just think that's cool. So, and it refreshes every time you judge. And of course, in melee wings, you're always close enough to judge, and you're throwing judge pretty much on cooldown. So, all right, I got to get out of combat. Seal of Might's next. If you grab both ranks, it's 4% mastery, 4% intellect. It's not horrible. Our mastery's not great. The intellect's kind of nice. It's just with 10 points left down here, there's just better things to grab, I think. Divine Purpose is next, one of my favorites. Get your wings going, get you an extra heal. Just has got me out of so many shitty situations. Love you, Divine Purpose, so fucking much. So, Seal of Alacrity right here. This is a great one. Get that haste down, right? Because we want to get the cooldowns going as fast as possible, especially in melee wings. And again, there's a little cooldown on Judgment, just 1 second, just a touch, but it's still nice. Now, over here we have Incandescence, where you have a chance to cause your Consecration to flare up. So if you're running one of those Consecrate builds, maybe something you want to try for fun. But I don't see anyone ever take that. This one, Touch of Light, I have seen some of the high-level RBGs Paladins take. Just a chance to proc a little healing and damage. You will never use this one. Up next, Of Dusk and Dawn. So Blessing of Dawn and Blessing of Dusk have both been changed. And that looks like a fucking word salad, but I can just break it down for you very easily. Basically what happens is when you cast 3 holy power generating abilities, you're going to gain Blessing of Dawn. So let's think about what that is. So we got Holy Shock, there's one. Bestow Faith, but interestingly with Bestow Faith, right, it doesn't get the holy power until it goes off. Boom, there you go. Now you've got it. Also, we can heal into our Radiant fucking Beacon. Yeah. So, and now there's 3. What'd I tell you? Blessing of Dawn. 30% increase to your Word of Glory coming out. Now, you could stack this twice. So if you spend 6, bam, there it is. 60%. And you spend that, and once you consume that Blessing of Dawn, here's Blessing of Dusk. Look at that. Damage taken reduced by 5%, little armor, and you get a little 10% CDR. You can read it right there. 10% more healing on Dawn, 10% more armor, and 10% more CDR on Dusk. So it just buffs this up a little bit. But over here, and this is an interesting one, and I haven't played enough to test it out, but something to maybe consider if you're wanting to try it out in this meta. You're nuts. But for those of you brave souls, look right here. Blessing of Dusk, right? So now your holy power generating abilities also grant an absorb shield. That's going to be, your Crusader strike stuff. So maybe if you're getting trained, if you know you're going to get trained, I don't know. I see most of the Paladins running Seal of Order, but maybe try Fading Light. I've seen maybe a few off builds. Maybe there's a few comps where this is better, because that you could get that shield up a little bit. That's how Blessing of Dawn and Dusk. So Dawn increases your Word of Glory healing, Dusk, CDR, and a little more resistant to damage. Next, Divine Toll. Have to take Divine Toll. Just pretty much the only good fucking thing that came out of Shadowlands. Well, and Empyrean Legacy. If I'm honest, there were some cool abilities in Shadowlands. Love Divine Toll. And then down here, if you'll remember, this used to be baked into Divine Toll, but now if you want it, where when you cast Divine Toll, you throw out those 5 Holy Shocks, and then you Holy Shock again every 5 seconds for 15 seconds. So if you want that extra baked in Holy Shock coming every 5 seconds for 15 seconds, you'll need to grab this down here. You could also reduce the cooldown of Divine Toll by 15 seconds. These last few, you just grab right here, the Seal of the Crusader, just throws a little damage on your auto attacks, but you just grab those so you can get this. And for the last one, Zealot's Paragon, just a buff to Hammer of Wrath and Judgment. And melee wings, you're going to be slinging those a lot, so why not? Also give you a little extension. You can grab a few seconds if you're really slinging them. You know what you're doing, just grab what you need. It'll all be time-stamped. Here we go. Holy Shock, Holy Light, Light of Dawn. Just abilities you're going to get every time. Over here, Illumination versus Divine Insight. So I do see a lot of Holy Paladins grabbing Illumination for that extra 10% on Flash of Light, because as you'll see, we can work ourselves down this side of the tree and really get some buffed up Flash of Light, especially into our beacon. Here, you get an extra 15% into your beacon, and you can grab a few others on the way down there. So you can get those really big Flash of Lights. However, you have to consider if you're in melee wings, you're not going to be casting quite as many because you're going to be throwing out Judgments, probably maybe some Crusader Strikes. So not quite as many global cooldowns available. Maybe better to buff up the Holy Shock. Divine Protection, huge ability. Always take this, of course, in PvP. This'll make it so that it takes 3 hits to kill you instead of 2. Bestow Faith, great ability, love it. Just remember, you don't get the holy power until it goes off after 5 seconds. Very cool ability. I've always loved Bestow Faith. Over here in this node, you're always going to take Moment of Compassion to buff up Flash of Light. In PvP, you pretty much only use Flash of Light, especially in solo shuffle or any type of arena. I mean, maybe the high-rated guys can weave in some Holy Lights, and there's times when you should. But for the most part, if you're learning and you're just learning Holy Paladin, I would just stick to Flash of Lights as much as possible. And most certainly, you're not going to use Holy Light enough to get this benefit out of it. And healing up to 5 targets within 12 yards. You could see this maybe in an epic. You could make a build where this could be kind of fun. But for the most part, you're always taking Moment of Compassion. Tyrion's Devotion. This is the first talent of a couple in here that kind of help reduce lay on of hands or add a benefit to lay on hands. Again, lay on hands just isn't a great ability in solo shuffle. You might get a little more out of this ability, and definitely in, say, a random battleground where you don't have dampening, or a rated battleground. You could see getting a lot of value out of this maybe. There might be better places to put your talent. Aura Mastery always. Another thing that I always like to grab now is this Protection of Tyr. You'll see that it increases healing received by everyone within your Aura Mastery. So not only do they get that damage reduction, you hit Aura Mastery, and now on top of that damage reduction, you also get 10% healing increase, which really makes that a great cooldown. In a meta where cooldowns, it's all about cooldown training, having one get beefed up a little bit is pretty nice. So I really like that for a talent point. Imperial Ward, 30% increased armor after lay on hands. Maybe kind of cool, again, if you've got a build where you're really putting those out, but just not one I usually take. I love that Rule of Laws right here, because you always take these 3, and just for 1 talent point, you can pick it up. You don't use it a lot in arena, but my favorite PvP is random battlegrounds and epic battlegrounds. It's nothing against solo shuffle. It's fine. I do it to get the gear and stuff, but for the most part, I just like to do randoms and epics And this rule of law is really fun, especially in the caster build I'll show you. I love that it's so easy to get with just one talent point. It's right here. So I really enjoy running this in Battlegrounds. I think you might too. Check it out. Divine Favor, oldie but goodie. I really like the version that could not be interrupted, but still nice. Buffed up Flash of Light, that's very fast, easy to get out. This is great for when you're coming out of a fear, coming out of a stun, and one of your guys is really low and you just need to bomb a big heal into them. And there it is. And then all you have to do, tap that Divine Favor and light them up. Word of Glory, you're just throwing these out all the time. 5% increase is just worth it. Over here, imbued infusions. Now, there's going to be a few times I'm going to talk about infusion of lights, and I know for most of you Pallies, you know what that is, but if you're new to Pally, you're not quite as familiar with the terminology, just remember that when Holy Shot crits, you'll get these like shiny brackets. This is an infusion of light proc, okay, that reduces the cost, the mana cost of your next Flash of Light, which is a nice thing in PvP, I guess an extended PvP. I kind of wish they would change Flash of Light and Holy Light, but I don't know. It seems kind of lame, but that's the go-to. So when I talk about infusion of lights, that's what I'm talking about. This makes it so that when you consume those, you knock a second off Holy Shock's cooldown. These two abilities are AoE abilities that are really cool to use, and I love Light's Hammer. I love to play Light's Hammer into an AV with the Consecrate and this Strength of Conviction, and you're just a little tower healer. It's a cool looking ability, but you just can't ever justify these in PvP with everybody running around. Saved by the Light adds a little emergency shield to both of your beacons so that if somebody drops below 30% health, it gives them just a little 41k shield. Radiant Onslaught, 2 charges of Crusader Strike instead of 1. Tower of Radiance, amazing ability, great addition. You used to hate to have to heal people without a beacon. And even if they were low, you felt so pressured to throw a beacon on them before you got to heal them. This makes it so that if they're very low on health, you're almost guaranteed to get a holy power out of healing them. So you heal them up, you stabilize them, then if they need the beacon, you throw it on them. Very great ability. Absolutely love this one. Just really makes Holy Paladin a lot better. Always take Tower of Radiance. Great ability. Echoing Blessings. Great for 2 parts. First off, a little bit of extra move speed on Freedom really gives it a little more value. Helps that DPS or that tank get away or close with the target. And on top of the move speed increase for Freedom, it also adds a 15% damage reduction to the targets of your bops and your sacks that last for 8 seconds after the blessing ends. This is huge for when your bops get purged and you still get some benefit from them. So very big into purge classes that you make sure you have this Echoing Blessings. This is Light of the Martyr. It's an old ability. I really like it, but there's just too many other places for your talent points to go right now, and this is kind of a chain that kind of buffs it up. Some builds do end up taking this barrier, but there's a better way to get there. So for the most part, no one's really messing with Light of the Martyr. I don't know. I think this might be better if they would make this so that it just was a cooldown, like a 10 or 12 second cooldown, and it was actually just like a mini health swap. Just as it is, and with the way cooldowns work and the way that you just have to spam heals, it's just really hard to justify this. With this, it can actually be, with these two together, this can actually be a pretty good heal, but no one really messes with this right now. Divine Revelations is nice because it gives what I think Infusions of Light should already do, which is it empowers Flash of Light heals to heal for a little bit more. It also gives your Holy Light a little bit of mana back. I see a lot of RBGers take this, and you're definitely going to take this in a caster build. Not so much in the Wings build because there's better things you can grab, but you know, if you really come up here and you grab this 10%, this 15% into your beacon, you think about really buffing one up with the Divine Favor. But even if that's on cooldown, you get another 10% from your Infusion of Lights, right? And then you can couple it. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but this gives your Infusion of Light procs 2 charges. So now you get 2 huge Flash of Lights that you can throw out And, and both your beacons receive that healing. You're doing a lot of healing through that caster build. Some of those high-level paladins get a ton of flash of lights out. I don't know how they do it. Commanding light. Buffing up beacon to grab a lot more healing. Very welcome. Always grabbing 2 ranks of this. This one and this one are both Light of Dawn. Maybe in an epic battleground, but I don't ever see anyone really take them. 2 ranks of this gives you 15% increased crit on Holy Shock. Gives you more Infusion of Light procs. Sanctified Wrath ties into your Avenging Wrath, so you get 20% damage and healing from wings. And this makes it so that you also reduce the cooldown of Holy Shock by 40% for the duration. So you're getting out a lot more Holy Shocks during wings. Remember that. Try to really push those out. Beacon of Faith, Beacon of Virtue. So Beacon of Faith, solo shuffle, arena, anything like that. Even I would say in BGs where you've got a tank, I really like Beacon of Faith. 1 on me, 1 on the tank, maybe 1 on the DPS that's with you. 40 mans, or anytime you're going to be doing like big group battles, say at the market or at the lumber mill, like you should be, you might get a lot more value out of Beacon of Virtue. Also, this is just, if you're wanting to just chill and relax and not really sweat about beacon swapping, just run Beacon of Virtue. You'll be plenty helpful enough. Beacon of Faith in every other case. It's nice having an extra beacon. I really like that. Very thematic. I just love beacon healing. It's so cool. Veneration. This is a really cool talent, and I always wish I had it. And I actually like to run it sometimes in random battlegrounds just to throw out a little more damage, but it's really hard to justify the talent point. Just makes it so that Flash of Light, Holy Light, and Judgment criticals give you a Hammer of Wrath, so you get to throw out a little more hate. Sometimes I catch a mood. What can I say? Increasing the range of Light of Dawn. If you're going to grab the second sunrise, you'll want to grab both of them. You'll definitely want to grab this too. So that's what kind of makes this hard to justify, is altogether it's kind of cool. In epics, this is really good AoE healing though. Here's the big choice. You go in melee wings or you go in caster build. That's all this is. So for your caster builds, this is going to add further into your Avenging Wrath. So here you get 20% damage and healing. Here you get a 40% reduction in Holy Shock. And over here you're getting 20% more critical strike chance. So it makes your wings a huge cooldown. And this is melee wings, where you're dropping huge Judgment Heals and Crusader Strikes and blowing shit up. I love that you can choose between these 2 specs, and they're both a lot of fun. I have to say, in that regard, I think Blizzard did a very good job. Balance is fucked. It's completely fucked, and I can't defend it. There's just no way. But I really like that there's a couple different ways to play my Paladin. Honestly, I think that's pretty cool. Power of the Silver Hand. This gets a lot more value the more Holy Lights and Flashlights you throw out. So I like this in my caster build. I'll show you. Same with Barrier of Faith. Here's Glimmer. When you Holy Shock something, it leaves behind this Glimmer of Light. And then the next time I Holy Shock something right over there, I'll also get a little heal. See? You can refresh that on people. Keeping those spread out is really high-level play if you can keep your mind to it. I love this ability. I'm always hopeful that, to me, this would be a good place for them to go, maybe with our Mastery if they were going to try to fix it. Crusader's Might is really not bad. There's just better things you're going to get down here with the 6 points you've got left at this point. Awakening, always take 2 ranks of this. 15% chance to get wings off of Word of Glory or Light of Dawn procs. And you're throwing out a ton of Word of Glories. Just a stacking haste buff. I mean, just 5% haste is really nice. Some people don't grab this at all, and they come grab these 2. You could take 1 point out of this and grab Barrier. Barrier's really cool and very thematic. I really like Barrier as an ability, and it really shines in the caster build where you're throwing out those flash of lights. But you can read the word grenade there, but basically it's an absorb you throw out. And then as you're healing that person, 50% of the healing from your flash of light and holy light, which in PvP mostly flash of light, is accumulated. So it's just this constant running shielding that's going on. The more you heal them with flash of light, they constantly are gaining this shield. For, and if you're really pumping big heals, 50% of a flash of light stacking could be a lot. It's pretty powerful. So I really like Barrier. I don't think it's as powerful as a lot of other healers' cooldowns, but it is pretty neat. Tears Deliverance is awesome. I really like this ability, and it's nothing to scoff at with the 25% buff to Flash of Light and Holy Light healing. I mean, it would just be another Flash of Light modifier. You could get some monster Flash of Lights while this was going off. The two big problems, as you can see, the first one is the 1.5-minute cooldown, and the other one is the 20-yard range. However, in things like Ashran or Wintergrasp, where you've got these kind of big spaced out team fights, this can really be amazing. You combine it with like the Consecrate healing plus the big Lights Hammer healing. It's a lot of fun. You really got to check it out. And, you know, if you've got to farm Honor anyway, I know that's kind of stupid and most people don't care about epic battlegrounds and battlegrounds, but I do. So I always talk about that stuff. I could not see anyone running this in any type of arena setting, but with the 1.5-minute cooldown, it's just too long. And we'll go ahead and just talk about this one since we're right here. This is basically just an extension of Tears Deliverance. When you cast Holy Light or Flash of Light on people affected by it, it extends the duration, so they get healed for longer. Probably just, again, not really worth the 2 points. There's just a lot of better things that you could get. Like this. Blessing of Summer, one of my favorite abilities. I don't care if it's worth it or not. I love this. Buffing up your allies, getting mana, cooldown reduction. I love cycling through it. Just something to do. Love it. And here you have another choice. And just like here where you pick between melee wings or caster, this is kind of that same decision. So in melee wings, you typically take this. And what that does is every 20 seconds, your judgment, when you throw out a judgment, you'll proc what's called an Empyrean Legacy proc, and you'll see the buff. You'll gain a buff. And what that is when you cast a Word of Glory, immediately after that, you're going to cast a Light of Dawn. And why that's important is, first, just the extra healing is kind of nice. But the second part and most important part is Word of Glory and Light of Dawn have a chance to proc your Avenging Wrath, which would put you in wings, which in melee wings, you're wanting to get in wings as much as possible to throw out those big judge heals. That's the purpose that this serves. A little extra healing, more procs of Awakening. And so here's a basic template right now for, say, melee wings. Say you're wanting to go melee wings and solo shuffle. Here's a basic template. And again, you could pull out of some things and go into others. The choice is yours. But make sure we're running that Cleanse the Weak, Shadow Priest, Elementals, Boomkins. You're really going to need that. If you're not running that, maybe Light's Grace with the caster build, Vengeance Aura, your choice. But this is just a standard melee wings build. If you have a second, let me show you a caster build. So let me cover a caster spec for those of you who are interested in what that would look like and how it would differ from a melee spec. And if you're new to the class, you don't really know how to shift into a more caster spec. The first thing you do is over here on the Paladin side, just pull out of all these buffs to auto attacks, because you're just not going to be up there melee wings, and you're not going to need these buffs to Hammer of Wrath and Judgment, because it's not going to be as mandatory for you to be up there judging on cooldown. So you pull these points out. Most people throw them into Seal of Might just because you get the Master isn't so great, the Intellect's nice. Another change that I do see some of the higher level RBGers making is just they're getting this Divine Toll on a faster cooldown, just because you're team fighting more, and so getting this out more, it just gets a lot more value rather than just the 3 holy shocks that come after it. This is probably a lot better in like maybe an arena setting, but this gets a lot of value because just throwing these out more in battlegrounds, pretty cool. So with the caster spec, you see a lot more holy paladins, and you'll see them in ranked battleground builds grabbing this a lot more. And over here on the holy side, you'll see a bunch of stacking of the Flash of Light and Holy Light modifiers. And all of these add up to some really big Flash of Lights. On top of that, your Avenging Wrath, it's 2-minute cooldown, but it's 20% healing and damage, 40% reduction on Holy Shock, and then 20% more crit here. And you're sitting back there glowing, throwing out some huge Flash of Lights into both of your beacons. Also, this barrier with this ranged build, really you can stack some pretty amazing shields because again, you're getting 2 charges every time you're getting that infusion of light proc with this inflorescence of the Sunwell. So you're getting those buffed up flash of lights consistently, and you're pumping them into this barrier of faith. It's pretty fun feedback. So if you're looking to change it up from melee wings, I wanted to show you something you could try out. And again, this is a template. Feel free to work with it. I imagine there's going to be a lot of changes to the Holy Paladin tree, and a lot of these talents are still going to get worked on, but I wanted to put something out to at least give you some guide and somewhere to start. But just stay tuned into that PvP leaderboard to see how the meta shifts and changes. But for the most part, I think a lot of people are just trying to ride it out till 10.1. One of the big issues right now with Holy Pally healing, if you're not aware, is the Forbearance problem. And I'm not sure why they didn't work this out with the rework, but they didn't. And it's a real problem, especially for a game whose most popular mode by a mile is uncoordinated PvP. To have the Forbearance conflict between Holy and Ret in PvP is just really ridiculous. I don't know any other class that has to buddy fuck their counterpart. It's ridiculous. And so if you don't know what I'm talking about, when Paladins use their big defensives, it causes a debuff called Forbearance that lasts 30 seconds. So you'll see right here, if I put Bop on myself, once Bop's over, you'll see my Forbearance debuff. And so say I wanted to use Lay on Hands, I couldn't do that, right? Because I'm still in Forbearance. And what the big problem is that it prevents the use of Divine Shield, even on Ret Paladins. So what happens is you're going to be healing in a solo shuffle, and a Ret Paladin's going to get thunder chunked by a Warlock or probably another Ret Paladin. And you're going to throw a huge Lay on Hands just out of panic or whatever because you just didn't think. And it fills him all the way back up. But then the next ability chunks him right back down to 20%. And he needs to bubble now. But he can't for 30 seconds because you fucked him by putting that Lay on Hands. And it's just a ridiculous... I mean, there's no reason to have a 30-second Forbearance on an ability that can be purged or shattered. There's just no reason at all. And it's a ridiculous interaction. And I don't know why they didn't address it during the rework. I mean, they gave these motherfuckers the keys to the kingdom, and they didn't fix this. I don't get it. This needs to change. This is bad. At the very least, they need to make it so that maybe Divine Shield doesn't interact with Forbearance. This could be just in and of itself an individual cooldown of the Pallies. Or at least maybe Ret Paladins doesn't. That might be the quickest fix. The only solution I can tell you to this problem right now, if you're brave enough to solo shuffle with all the Ret Pallies, is just tell them to use their bubble first. It's an oversimplification, but if you're not in Discord, you're not in comms, it's just the best way to do it. Say, hey, Pally, use your bubble first, and then I'll follow up with my defensives once I can. And that way they're not just railing you for buddy fucking them. It's just it's already so stressful to heal, but to have that interaction just seems ridiculous. And it's just being exasperated by the legion of Ret Pallies in every match. So it just adds a little more stress to a class that already has a lot to manage. It is what it is, and until they fix it, that's what you have to do. But that's my suggestion. In closing, brothers and sisters, some words of encouragement. Just know if you're having a hard time on your Holy Paladin, that even some of the best Paladins out there are having a hard time on their Holy Paladins right now. There's just a lot of stacking problems from our mastery, the Forbearance issue we talked about, and just a host of other things that are all adding up to some problems. I think, and I'm pretty hopeful they'll address a lot of this for 10.1, but I don't think there's any denying right now that PvP's in a pretty rough state, and a lot of people might just be sitting on the sidelines seeing where we go from here. Don't get too downhearted. Usually by season 3 or 4 of an expansion, we start getting some really good PvP. So never fear, my friends, for whatever storms we have to weather. We shall weather them together. Oklahoma out.